Hi, thank you for joining me. So what I want to talk about today is completely inspired by a video I saw in the middle of this week from Chad at Acoustic Sounds, which I'll pop a link to up here. And basically it was announcing that Analogue Productions, Chad's label, are about to release a series, initially of 15 albums, I think, of releases that were on the Pablo label. Now, I feel inspired to make a video about this, particularly because I've, for quite a long time, felt Pablo was a bit of an undiscovered gem. I've got maybe, I don't know, only a dozen or so records on the Pablo label, but they don't show up here in the UK. It's an American label, so they don't show up here in the UK that often. But when they do, they're generally, really cheap. I mean, less than £10. I don't think I've paid more than £10 for a single one of them, not at all. And I believe that in the States it's similar, that they're really kind of undiscovered almost. I mean, they're not given the sort of the credibility or the respect that they deserve. So I just want to really run through how I came across Pablo, and hopefully in so doing kind of give them a little bit of the kind of provenance and credibility that they truly deserve. And hopefully that may lead to some of you putting some orders in. I'm not paid by Acoustic Sounds or Analogue Productions or anything of the sort. I won't be buying them all because I can't play and afford to, but I'll buy a few certainly. But they're $40 for one of these new Acoustic Sounds Pablo series records, or Analogue Productions Pablo series records, and that's not very much money for what I am sure will be a series of stunning recordings, and that really is the essence of it. Pablo are massively underrated in my eyes, and they're phenomenal recordings. So how did I come across Pablo and Norman Granz, really? It started about 15 years ago for me when I seriously got into Billie Holiday. I'd actually, through illness, I was sort of laid up with a broken back, basically, and on morphine, and it really changes, when you're in constant pain and all that, it really changes your kind of listening habits and all the rest of it. And I got very into mono, and I got very into the sort of the 1950s recordings of Billie Holiday and of Miles Davis, and whether that was due to the drugs I was on at the time or what, I don't know, but they really hit home and fitted. Okay, so I was already aware of this record here, Lady Sings the Blues, which is probably, I would think, is probably the best known Billie Holiday record out there. It's the first Billie Holiday record I was aware of. And the first copy of this I had was on the Verve record label. And I'd never heard of Clef records, to be perfectly honest. But anyway, at that time, I was kind of hunting out original pressings of this, that, and the other. And I wanted to get an original pressing of this because I was really, really taken with Billie Holiday at that point in time. And this is it. And as you see, it's on the Clef record label. I'll just show you that label there. Really cool label. You can see it's a deep groove, which, anyone who collects old Columbias, Blue Notes, Prestiges, etc., you'll all be aware of these traits. And this is, what you call a deep groove, original, mono, Clef. Okay, so I haven't heard of Clef, but it was obviously a label that came around before Verve, because reissues of this album were on Verve. That's all I knew at the time. And I got a few more Billie Holidays here. Again, this is on Clef, as we can see, same label, supervised by Norman Granz. So I'm thinking, okay, who's this Norman Granz guy? This, incidentally, I think is an even better sounding record than Lady Sings the Blues. I just love it, absolutely love it. Come Rain or Come Shine, Fine Romance, just there's some phenomenal songs on this. And here we go again, that's the that Clef label. Now, okay, so I discovered a new label. I know we're not talking about Clef, but basically, I'm just going to go back in time here, although in my discovering, we're going forward in time. A little later on, I got hold of this one, and this is sort of the first, or one of the very earliest Billie Holiday records that was on Clef. And again, supervised by Norman Granz, you see here. But the thing is, this is on Mercury, it's not on Clef. Now, I had 2 copies of this at one point in time. I had a copy on Clef, and this is, I believe, an earlier one, the actual original. But as you look, it's on Mercury, but it's got the same logo. So the story starts to get really kind of interesting. And really this is the story of one man, and it's Norman Granz. So, as I understand it, Granz worked at Mercury sort of through the 40s and early 50s. And Mercury, basically he started Clef in 1946, 1947. And it was kind of a subsidiary or a division of Mercury. Well, and he kind of ran it, and it later on became his own label, and he left Mercury. And I think that was in the early 1950s. At which point, incidentally, he formed another label called Norgran. No, I don't have any Norgran recordings. But if you think of Norman Granz and his sort of timeline and his heritage. So he starts off at Mercury, okay? And then he forms his own label, Clef. And, here's 2 very noteworthy recordings on the Clef label. Absolutely stunning records these are. And unlike Pablo, these most certainly are collectible. I can't remember what I paid for these, but probably over £100 each time. Whereas, like I said, with the Pablos, I'd never more than a tenner. And then I think it was in 1956, Granz started the label Verve, okay, which we will know about. And I just want to show you here, because this is a Verve record, and again we've got Deep Groove, and look at the label again, So as we can see, there's from Mercury through Clef, Verve, which again, I mean, Verve is became very, everyone's heard of Verve, I'm absolutely convinced. But Clef was a predecessor of Verve, and what Pablo is in basically in 1973. It's what Norman Granz did after Verve. So Granz, he didn't start Mercury, but he started Clef, he started Verve, and then, and we're talking in kind of almost 10-year chunks. So Clef, I think he started in the sort of the mid-late 40s. Verve, he started in the mid-50s, and Pablo, he started in 73. And interesting things about Pablo. I mean, one, the name. He was a good friend of Pablo Picasso, and being a sort of a kind of a bit of an artist myself. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Pablo Picasso, so it's that's kind of cool, I think. And interestingly, nearly all, not all, but nearly all the Pablo records are in black and white monochrome covers. But this is one of the titles that's being released by Chad on the Analogue Productions Pablo series. And as we can see on the back here, produced by Norman Granz, and it's what Granz went on to do after Verve. and after Clef. And the artists that he's got on these labels, I mean, we've got, you know, Duke Ellington, which is just, you know, I mean, absolute genius, stunning stuff. This is another one that's in the list of 15. And as we can see here, it was a Grammy Award-winning album in one year or another. I don't know which, but I'd guess 76, because that's when it came out. But, you know, Ella Fitzgerald and Joe Pass. Another absolute cracking. And other artists he has on his label, Count Basie, Oscar Peterson. This isn't on the list, but I hope it will be. You know, I don't know, I think there's, you know, they've announced the first 15, but again, you know, up in Duke's workshop, Duke Ellington and his orchestra. These records are absolutely bloody stunning. I won't go through the, you know, the rest of it, but it's, you know, well, let's pull one up. Count Basie encounters Oscar Peterson. I mean, you know, these are cracking recordings. And one of the things, if there was a sort of a trait, I would say they all feel very live. I mean, you know, Granz recordings really feel live. They capture that essence of a jam session or a live concert. And one of the other, you know, big things to credit Norman Granz with was the Jazz at the Philharmonic series, which I think he first recorded in the mid to late, I think it was the mid-40s actually. He first recorded a concert he put on at the Philharmonic Auditorium in Los Angeles. But he went on, Jazz and Philharmonic, he toured the world with this band, which he put together. And I mean, he managed Ella Fitzgerald, he managed Oscar Peterson. It was like, he was a serious player in the jazz world back in the sort of 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And, you know, his label, Pablo, it's just chock-a-block with phenomenal recordings, which are, you know, just hugely underrated. But they, you know, I mean, of the ones that are listed so far on Analogue Productions, and let me just go online here and see what we have got listed. So what we got: Clark Terry, Freddie Hubbard, Dizzy Gillespie, plus Oscar Peterson. Okay, I don't know that. Well, Duke's Big Four, phenomenal. Duke Ellington, Ray Brown. This one's for Blanton. Count Basie, 88 Basie Street. Art Tatum and Ben Webster, Count Basie and the Kansas City Three. Sarah Vaughan, Basie again, Basie and Oscar Peterson. Ella Fitzgerald and Joe Pass, the one I just showed you. Count Basie and Dizzy Gillespie. Sarah Vaughan, Clark Terry, Zoot Sims, Quadrant, and Dizzy Gillespie's Big Four. I mean, they're $40 each. I just plain can't afford to, but you know, the temptation to just order the lot is quite, it's quite tempting. I'll definitely order some. Anyway, that's it. Point of the video is to just chat and comment on these Pablo releases, which I don't know, you know, whether in the US Pablo does have the kind of the respect it deserves, but I get the feeling not, because they're so cheap to buy, and you know, to buy a, you know, Stoughton covered, a QRP pressed copy of this for that sort of money is an absolute steal. These are beautiful recordings, and I think that's pretty much me, you know, covered with all I wanted to say there. It's, you know, Pablo, you may not have heard of them, but that, you know, that is their kind of, you know, the provenance, that's the timeline of where they come from. It's all about Norman Granz, but Norman Granz, you know, we owe to him kind of, you know, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, Oscar Peterson, Clef, Verve, you know, the guy is a legend, and very deservedly so. And I think this is phenomenal news for the for contemporary modern audiophile record collectors, jazz fans, whatever you want to call it. These things are cracking recordings. Okay, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you all again soon. Bye for now. Bye.